Kawhi goes to Toronto and they win a championship and everyone goes crazy. It's like Kevin Durant's not around, LeBron's not around. Is Kawhi the best player on the planet? I remember even Max Kellerman, he was like, he had that soundbite that everyone makes fun of nowadays. Kawhi
I
has
want
more clutch
Iguodala.
moments in the playoffs than Kobe Bryant,
Right.
and you have Jay Williams on the side. Tell me about those clutch moments. So like everyone has those overreactions after big performances in the finals. I mean, Kawhi is amazing. I think he's probably a top 20 player of all time.
But
But I mean,
with
to say he's the best player in the league
but with the
over,
fate of the universe on the line, do you want Kawhi or Kobe? The
I
fate of
think
the
you want
universe on the line.
Iguodala.
Exactly. You want Iguodala.
You want Iguodala. Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Brews and Brews Reviews, the show with cold drinks and colder takes. So we're taping this episode Sunday evening, September 12th. So the summer is gone, the fall is here, and school's back. But school's not the only thing that's back. NFL football is also back. So in honor of this first week, we're going to do a little bit of an overreaction episode today. So we're going to be overreacting to everything that happened in this first week of football. And later on, the Riley brothers actually return to this podcast. I don't know why, but they come back on the podcast to overreact to some NBA playoffs, to all this Giannis legacy talk. And they're going to be talking about their upcoming projects with their film production company, Walnut Pictures. So they got a lot of cool stuff going on over there. I will link their YouTube channel in the description so you can check that out and go check out all the cool movies and projects they've got going on. Yeah, so I guess we'll start off with Thursday Night Football. The Cowboys had quite the game against the defending Super Bowl champion Bucks. They ended up losing 29-31, but there's a little bit of a silver lining to it, to this loss, because you know Dak Prescott coming off of an injury. You never know what you can expect. Football's a tough game. Bodies getting thrown around there. Guys that are 300 pounds coming at you full speed, especially coming off of as serious an injury as Dak Prescott was. And boy, he really put on a show. Dak, he looked like a baller the entire time out there. He was slinging it. He was running around. He was out of the pocket. He was doing this and that. The guy had over 400 yards, and 42 out of his 58 passing attempts were completed. That's a 72% completion rate against one of the best defenses in the league. And he had 3 touchdowns and only 1 interception. So, you know, even though the Cowboys lost this one, you got to be excited as a Cowboy fan. Looking at Amari Cooper, who had 3 touchdowns, and CeeDee Lamb had a couple grabs as well. You know, coming from not knowing what to expect, a hurt star quarterback, like, this is an exciting team. It's the Cowboys are looking a lot better than they did last year, and kudos to Dak Prescott. On the other side, Brady, the extraterrestrial, the man is 44 years old. I mean, the guy was born in 1977. Like, he was born in the 70s, and he's out here playing with 27-year-old men in the prime of their athletic careers, and he's just walking all over them. He looks the best he's looked in years. I don't know how he does it. I just don't get it. It doesn't make any sense. So Brady had 4 touchdowns through for 379 yards. I mean, he doesn't really leave the pocket at all, but I mean, you can't blame him. He's 44 years old. Yeah, the guy's just not from the same planet. He's not a terrestrial human being. Other than that, Antonio Brown and Rob Gronkowski. Those are two guys also thought to be a little bit washed up, not kind of supposed to be a shell of their former selves, but they're both looking in fine form. Brady obviously trusts them both pretty well. The thing is, you know, these guys were not supposed to be like number one options on their day. It was supposed to be Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, the two receivers on the Bucks, and Antonio Brown is looking like a number one receiver. So if you, like myself, got him late in your fantasy draft, as well as Ron Gronkowski, you're looking. You might be looking to have a good year in fantasy this year. So look out for those guys. Mike Evans and Chris Godwin looked not so good. So I had Evans at number 11, the 11th wide receiver in the league on my fantasy draft table behind Keenan Allen and Terry McLaurin. And Godwin at 16th, respectively, behind Julio Jones and Amari Cooper. But I mean, for someone who's supposed to be the number one option on the defending Super Bowl champion Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Evans wasn't looking so hot. There were a couple plays when they ran the wrong routes, or Evans at least ran the wrong routes on a couple plays, and Tom Brady threw it to where they should have been, and it was obvious that they just hadn't studied the playbook that well. So it's good the Bucs were able to come away with a win despite all this. But if you drafted Mike Evans or Chris Godwin, I'd give him a couple more weeks, or don't. This is the overreaction episode, so overreact to it all you want. But they weren't looking so hot, so give him one more strike or something. But yeah, anyways, closing remarks for that game. Tampa Bay running game was pretty much non-existent. Ronald Jones, who he was like my last pick. He ended up with negative 0.6 points because he got a fumble. Good thing I put him on my bench because that wouldn't have been so good. But yeah, the running game was non-existent, but Brady can sling it. So at 44, he's doing pretty well. And then Cowboys fans, you guys have something to cheer for, something to be excited about. And then so for today's games, Sunday night games, first of all, the Cardinals and the Titans, two teams at opposite ends of the overreaction scales. So we'll start with the negative end of the overreaction scale. The Titans. So the Titans added Julio Jones onto their receiver depth this past offseason. So they're supposed to be everyone's looking at them like they might be an offensive juggernaut. They got Derrick Henry, one of the best running backs in the league. Over the past couple of years, they've got A.J. Brown and now Julio Jones. So I mean, on paper, that's a pretty nice looking receiving tandem, as well as top running back in Derrick Henry. But their O-line just couldn't hold up. Tannehill got sacked 5 times. So Chandler Jones had a career high 5 sacks. Tannehill was just getting his head smashed in on every play. The Cardinals D-line with J.J. Watt was just going crazy, and Chandler Jones. This Titans O-line was just crumbling. Tannehill really had no protection whatsoever, so they looked bad. Not quite time to panic yet, week 1, but if you want to be like me and overreact a little bit, I'd be a little worried. And then on the other end, the Cardinals. Jeez, this Cardinals team, they looked really good. So, you know what? I'm just going to go ahead and say it. Kyler Murray might mess around and win the MVP this year. might be a hot take given that it's week 1, but he had 289 yards and 4 touchdowns. This guy was just simply electric. He was lighting it up on so many levels, and he just completely outplayed Tannehill. The Titans just looked completely outclassed. It was really impressive. Other notes: the Browns Chiefs games. Browns running game looks really good between Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb. Those guys were just playing, old school smash mouth football, just running into people, banging bodies out there. You love to see it. You really love to see it. This Browns team is, they're old school tough. They've got some toughness to them. So, they really lit it up in the first half. But you know how the Chiefs are. You can't really bet against Travis Kelce, Tyreek Hill, and Patrick Mahomes. They came back and, just these weird things happen. It's almost like Brady and the Patriots where just random things happen. There was this weird turnover by the Browns punter late in the game. They got a turnover. Kansas City then scored. And then Baker on like the deciding play of the game has this bad pick. I love Baker, and I want to see him win really bad. He's got the mentality of a champ. He's such a competitor. He's such a great teammate. But you know what? He has these bad turnovers in awkward situations that it's just he played so great all game, and it just sucks to have the game end like that. But yeah, so the Chiefs caught up, and last but not least, a little Sam Darnold revenge game against his former team, the Jets. So the Jacksonville Jaguars ended up beating the Jets. Little battle of bottom of the barrel there. Neither team looking super good, but at least Sam Darnold got out of New York, and he's with a different, possibly better team now. So yeah, that about sums it up for the week 1 NFL overreactions. So let's bring it over to the Riley brothers. So talked about it before. They've got some upcoming projects coming up. You can check it out in their YouTube channel, which I will have linked in the description. Thanks for joining us today, boys.
Thanks for having us on.
Yeah. So before we get into all that, I guess we've got a little brew to review here. So the drink of choice today is from Parallel 49, local BC brewery, the Trash Panda Hazy IPA. So without further ado, let's crack into these suckers. Let's get it going.
Let's see.
Cheers.
Cheers. Cheers.
Oh man, I was swimming earlier in the ocean.
Yeah.
A little dehydrated. It's really hitting the spot. That's a smooth drink right there.
I like it a lot.
I'm actually really impressed with this one.
Nice local brew.
Local one, smooth hazy IPA. A little trash panda, a little raccoon on there.
Funny enough, we have a little trash panda that lives at our house.
Yeah, he comes in through there.
Comes in through our back door, and we've got some guys in the basement who feed him, so he's pretty used to humans.
Jeez.
So.
They say a fed trash panda is a dead trash panda.
Eventually, he will probably
Our
be
roommate
dead.
will kill us if we do anything to this trash panda. So,
do you have a name or?
I think we've had Ricardo, and what's the other one?
Something else. It changes every day, but we like Ricardo.
Awesome. Well, I'm pretty impressed with this trash panda here. I think I'm gonna give it. Might just go ahead and say it. I'm gonna give this one a 9.6.
Whoa.
I really like this one.
That's a monster score.
That's as good as it gets.
I really like this one.
I'm gonna go an 8.2.
8.2. Okay.
Yeah, I
It's
think
the
it's pretty
average.
solid.
Okay.
I think the branding is very solid as well. I like the branding, the colors, all that. And then the taste is very smooth, as you said. Yeah.
All right. So why don't we round it out to like, why don't we say 8.9?
8.9 average.
8.9 average.
Yeah, it's a good average.
That may sit at the top for a while for sure.
Nice. All right. Well, there you have it. Parallel 49 Trash Panda Hazy IPA. 8.9.
Very nice.
All right, so let's get right down into it. So, you know, I guess when the Phoenix Suns went up 2-0 in the NBA Finals series, no one really expected a comeback, especially not one like this. They came back and won 4 games in a row after everyone was kind of counting them out. Any initial reactions from the series? What's your take on the whole Giannis situation?
Well, I think for Giannis specifically, it's like going to the playoffs. Everyone was wondering if he needed a Batman, if he was a Batman, and so like the idea, like everyone kind of assumed, or the thought was that he was like a pick and roll guy at his heart. He needed a ball handler. He needed a Rob, or he was a Robin for Batman. He needed a guy to handle the ball at the end of the game.
He
And
needed a dude
make the
that was just
plays.
going to be just going to put the ball in the hoop at the end of the game. Giannis doesn't have a jump shot, so I think the main reason everyone was saying he was a Robin who needed a Batman and Chris Middleton was maybe the so-called Batman is because Giannis can get you 40 points and 15 rebounds on any given night, but when it comes down to it, in the last couple minutes of the fourth quarter, you set up a wall, and traditionally in the past couple playoffs, you can stop him pretty well. And because he doesn't have a jump shot, he's not very consistent from outside of the perimeter. He's not very reliable in those last couple games. Not to mention the fact that he's a career 65% free throw shooter.
Yeah, well, the free throws were getting worse, but I would say like he needed a guy because people were saying like he's playing point forward and really he should be playing center, like Shaq. And I guess I think he got a little lucky with the matchups this year in the playoffs. The team Brooklyn, Atlanta, and Phoenix weren't able to really build the wall the way the Raptors or Miami were before. Obviously, Miami they played them, but Miami was not very good this year. But I think like he did level up, I would say. I think he got a lot better.
He leveled up for sure.
He did. And I think like it happened in the Brooklyn series. And basically throughout these playoffs, he kind of like became more comfortable as in the post, especially. He had like before it was like he was a big athletic guy and he didn't really have a move to go to. And it feels like after these playoffs, he's like got 5 or 6 post moves that he can go to. He's got like he can go to a drop step, a power move, he can do a hook, he can even do a post fadeaway now, which is kind of like the shot. If you really want to win, you take the post fadeaway.
Right.
And so he's taking that shot now, and he's actually making it if he can get down low enough on the block. And so that's why that's why they won, and that's why I guess the question's been answered. He doesn't really need a Batman. Chris Middleton is a perfectly fine Robin for him.
Despite Chris Middleton showing shades of Kobe and MJ out there,
Yeah.
I personally have to eat my words. I said probably, I think it was the third game, the first one that the Bucks won. I think you were over at our place. Jake watched the game, and I said Giannis put up an empty 42. I wasn't a big Giannis guy, but
I don't think anyone in that watching
wrong.
that game at the place was a big Giannis guy.
Yeah.
If I could just say, like, there's not a lot of houses where you just have like, oh, you're not a big. There's a bunch of guys who aren't big Giannis guys. Like most people are like he's likable. I think
he's he's such a genuine guy. He's super. Yeah. We recorded a podcast with Stefan this morning talking about baseball, and we were talking about Shohei Ohtani and the whole Stephen A situation. And so Stephen A basically said that, oh, so Shohei, I don't think Stephen A watches any baseball, but
Definitely not.
so he was basically saying it's bad for baseball that Shohei Ohtani is the face of the league now because he needs an interpreter to speak for him. But I mean, him and Giannis, I think, are similar in that Giannis's English is obviously a lot better, but they're so genuine, they're so authentic, they're always smiling and cracking jokes for the camera. And you can just tell by their body language, guys like Kevin Durant who've been in the game, in the spotlight since they were probably 12 years old, going to AAU tournaments and just dominating. Guys like that can get jaded being in the spotlight, having to deal with the media. But guys like Giannis and Shohei, who haven't been in North America their entire lives in the spotlight, dealing with the North American media, which can sometimes twist your words and make things seem, they like to villainize certain characters a lot. But Giannis and Shohei haven't had to deal with that their entire lives. So it's kind of like a breath of fresh air. Like, he's a different kind of superstar than we've seen. And I think that's why he's so likable.
Yeah, well, they both show like super charisma. But on that Shohei note, that's an all-time worst Stephen A take. You can just go look at the YouTube views for the clips of Shohei versus non-Shohei, and you'll see that Shohei is driving serious numbers in baseball right now.
Absolutely. And Stephen A did apologize for his comments.
He walked it back.
He did, which is
Nice.
good, because people were calling him xenophobic and all this other stuff, which is, it's not a good look for Stephen A. But I mean, ESPN reporters, they got to go on air and say outlandish stuff to get clicks. A lot of those ESPN talk shows are kind of corny. But anyways, back to the point. This Giannis thing, I mean, he definitely took it up a notch. I will admit I wasn't a big Giannis guy coming in the past couple of years, because he was like, I saw him as a regular season warrior. He'd put up 40 points and 15 rebounds consistently, night in, night out, just dominate the paint. But then come playoff time, teams like the Raptors and the Heat last year, not this year, would just put up a wall in the paint, and Giannis would try to run downhill at him, but he's got nowhere to go. And without a jump shot, any perimeter game, it's pretty hard to score points in the playoffs like that.
Yeah, but, I mean, yeah, I was just gonna say, like, that's where, like, a couple things changed for him. Like, he figured out how to off the dribble, like, sidestep guys a lot better. I think, like, especially with like DeAndre Ayton specifically, he was like just kind of like wrapping around him whenever he wanted to, which he wasn't doing before. He was just kind of like putting his head down and going. So I think his decision making got a whole lot better, and his like he was like reaching out for the rim a lot for layups now, as opposed to before. He was kind of just like throwing them up there, and I feel like, I mean, he was dunking a lot too, but he was getting like all the way to the rim, as opposed to just like taking little dumping like hook shots and stuff off the glass. He wasn't doing that anymore. Like, it was just pure power, and like he was getting around guys like that, but he was also like making the right passes now instead. Like against the Raptors and the Heat, he was like turning the ball over a lot in bad spots, and that was like one of the big reasons why their offense kind of died, because their 3-point shooting dried up when he couldn't get the ball up to the corners or the elbows for threes. So I mean, their offense died these playoffs too. Like, he kind of carried them completely, especially in that last game when he had 50. Like, he kind of like I said, he leveled up. So
he leveled up. So
yeah,
obviously all-time performance in a closeout game in the finals. He did his thing. He wasn't, in past series, when like against the Raptors, against the Heat, he looked scared to go into the paint because he knew he was going to get fouled and he had to go to the free throw line. But I feel like he kind of adopted this mentality. It doesn't matter how many times you miss, just keep shooting, keep going for it, because it's good for my team. And it was like, that net series if Kevin Durant's shoe side was half a size smaller, then it would be a different story. But that happened, and they won the series. And Giannis just had this kind of confidence that we hadn't seen.
Yeah.
And so you mentioned DeAndre Ayton. Let's go into the Suns a little bit, because in that last game, it looked like Giannis was just a man amongst boys. He was getting to his spots. He was shooting his free throws. Literally nobody could contain him. He was doing like spin moves and midair spin moves to get to the rim. So I think the Suns, first of all, is it a problem with their lineup? Because they didn't have a lot of big men that could contain him. But also, I mean, they didn't really beat a healthy roster in the postseason.
So I think the Suns were really good. I think Chris Paul was injured. The way he was playing, like he just, because when he was good, he was good. And I think
he had that closeout game against the Clippers. He had 40 points.
So I think whatever's going on with his neck or whatever it was, his arm, I've had that feeling before. It's really terrible. And I think I think it probably like comes like it's like on and off. It's not like something that's just like permanent, or it's not something that's consistent. So it can flare up for him. And I think it flared up for him, and it caught like, because you saw in game 6 against the Clippers, he was like unstoppable. And then in game, like, what was it, game 3, he was just against the Bucks, he was just not good. And
he was terrible.
He's like deferring to Cameron Payne randomly. And I just feel like healthy Chris Paul doesn't do that. But I mean, the biggest reason I think Phoenix struggled was it was Giannis. And that's because Giannis figured out DeAndre Ayton, on offensively. So he was, like I said, he was doing his side steps and he was powering through them. But then defensively, he was like, they basically just put Giannis at center for a significant portion of the game. And it kind of neutralized Chris Paul, because Chris Paul, he's always most successful when he's playing pick and roll, and he can kind of like maneuver or like manipulate the entire floor with a big man, and he's got guys in the wings, and he's running these actions, and he's got the ball in his hands. And when Giannis switches all these screens, and the Bucks are switching everything, and Chris Middleton's switching, and PJ Tucker's switching, it kind of just like takes away what makes Chris Paul like really, really, really great. And I said this, like, I think I said this on your last podcast, like that's why he lost against the Lakers, or that's why the Lakers, or that's why he lost when he was on the Thunder against Houston when they went small. He just was neutralized. And I feel like the same thing happened against the Bucks this time. He just couldn't do what he wanted to do because they were just switching, and he was obviously, his arm was feeling off, and he couldn't shoot off the dribble very well. He was still getting to his elbow jumper consistently, I guess, and that was going down. But when his elbow was, or when his neck was bad, it wasn't going. And then obviously Devin Booker is like, he's not Kobe. Like the whole after 2 games, Devin Booker's Kobe. Like that was a joke. Like I like Devin Booker, but he's just not that guy.
He's not the next Kobe.
I don't know if the Suns can repeat this type of success again next year, though, when you've got teams, I'm presumably like the Clippers and the Lakers coming back, and they're going to level up. So
they're going to level up. I mean, I feel like this was his opportunity. I mean,
post LeBron, post Space Jam LeBron, that's a different animal.
So I think the Lakers have a lot of work to do.
I mean, if you look at their roster, they have LeBron and Anthony Davis, and then Andre Drummond. He's a big part of the future for them.
Right. Yeah. The big
rebound machine. Yeah.
The big penguin.
Yeah. The big penguin. Oh no. Okay. And so anyways, but for Phoenix, I still think you're right in saying that their opportunity was this year. I don't see them making the finals next year. Unless DeAndre Ayton takes another level up. Maybe like Dario Saric becomes that guy, but otherwise I don't see. They need a bench. Actually, they need a bench big. I don't know who that is. Maybe like I don't know who that is for them. They like Jalen Smith, maybe their draft pick from last year when they should have taken Tyrese Halliburton. Yeah, Jalen Smith. Maybe he's like a stretch 4. I think he didn't play that much. I'm kind of shocked he didn't play this year. They played Frank Kaminsky too much. But yeah, for Phoenix, it's I mean, maybe Devin Booker does really become the next Kobe, and then they've got
Maybe
the
they
Shaq and
grab
Kobe duo.
a young guy from a team where not a lot's happening. Maybe like a disgruntled young guy like Marvin Bagley or something.
Yeah, they could. I mean, they could like throw a bag at John Collins. That's a guy they could probably get.
He was
because
good. He was
yeah.
really good this year.
I mean, they need like they had Jay Crowder playing power forward. I mean, maybe Cam Johnson was really great. Like
Bless me. Sorry.
Bless you. Cam Johnson was really great. And they had what are you laughing about?
Sorry, my bad.
Cam Johnson was sorry. Cam Johnson was excellent. And I think like
I've been told I have a cute sneeze. Is that why you're laughing, Will?
It was very cute. It was very cute.
No, I think Cam Johnson's like a long-term starter for them if he can figure out like defensively, but like he knows his role perfectly. He's like the exact kind of guy that you want. So I don't know if he's a small forward or power forward long-term. But he's like perfect off the bench for them right now. I don't know if he can grow into a starting role, but they need to figure out their wing spots because Jay Crowder probably isn't that guy. Mikal Bridges is that guy. He's really great. But yeah, so they need to figure out that power forward spot really long term. And then point guard, if they had drafted Tyrese Halliburton, they would be set. And now they're not set because Chris Paul's getting old. He's not getting worse. He's just getting old. And the odds of him getting injured again in the playoffs just seem like it's going to happen again. And it sucks, but it is what it is. So yeah, I don't know. We'll see what happens with that.
See what happens. But yeah, I'd say the Suns, it's crazy because after they won those first two games, we mentioned, I don't want this to turn into like a Stephen A. hate podcast, but like after those first two games, there were like ESPN First Take was talking about, are the Suns the NBA's next big dynasty? Like, oh my goodness. And it makes you wonder. So okay, let's get to this, like these overreactions from the media. So, after those first two games, ESPN was talking about, maybe the Suns are the next big dynasty. You've got a supposed Kobe Bryant 2.0 in Devin Booker, a 38-year-old Chris Paul, a young DeAndre Ayton and Mikal Bridges. So, I mean, it's a solid roster, but to say they're the next great dynasty, they haven't even won a championship yet. Nonetheless, a dynasty. It makes you think. So these overreactions from the fans and the media. So going back to 2018. So after 2018, LeBron lost the finals, but he was clearly the best player on the planet. It was really hard to debate that. I mean, you could say Kevin Durant, but I mean, for LeBron to take that 2018 Cavs team and just bring them to the finals just single-handedly, I remember that year the Raptors were looking pretty good, and it was like every year it was the same thing. Like, oh, Raptors are good. Kyle Lowry, DeMar DeRozan, those guys are studs. And every year it was like the Cavs just come back and just spank them. And so
LeBronto was in full force.
LeBronto was in full force.
If you go back to game one of that series, if they had not fallen apart, I think they had like 4 chances at an offensive rebound at the end of the game and they would have won. Then I feel like they would have won that series, but they just fell apart. It was just pathetic to watch, really.
LeBronto happened, but it was like at the start of that series, the Raptors were looking really good and the Cavs were a hot mess. And it was LeBron and his team of like
Isaiah Thomas,
Jordan Clarkson, and a bunch of scrubs.
Nance. Well, he was actually after the trade, so they were not on the same team, actually. It was Isaiah Thomas and then Larry Nance. But anyways.
So I remember getting mad at myself after the series for thinking for just a split second that it wouldn't be Golden State against the Cavaliers in the finals for the 5th time in a row. Like I was so angry at myself for allowing myself to believe for that split second it wasn't going to be LeBron and Steph in the finals. So after 2018, it's like LeBron is the face of the league, the best player on the planet. And then he gets injured. And then Kawhi goes to Toronto and they win a championship and everyone goes crazy. It's like Kevin Durant's not around, LeBron's not around. Is Kawhi the best player on the planet? I remember even Max Kellerman, he was like, he had that soundbite that everyone makes fun of nowadays. Kawhi
I
has
want
more clutch
Iguodala.
moments in the playoffs than Kobe Bryant.
Right.
And you have Jay Williams on the side. Tell me about those clutch moments. So like everyone has those overreactions after big performances in the finals. I mean, Kawhi is amazing. I think he's probably a top 20 player of all time. But I mean, to
With,
say he's the best player in the league
but with the
over,
fate of the universe on the line, do you want Kawhi or Kobe?
I think you want Iguodala.
Exactly. You want Iguodala.
You want Iguodala. No. And then the next year, it's like everyone was making fun of Max Kellerman for the whole Iguodala thing, and for saying, "Oh, Kawhi's the best," because LeBron came back with his Lakers. They got Anthony Davis, and they just ripped through the bubble. And it's like, oh, LeBron is we're all so stupid for allowing us to believe that for 1 second LeBron wasn't the best player on the universe, and then now this year we have this whole Giannis spectacle because, okay, that 50-point game, that closeout game in the finals is the stuff of legends. Like you don't see that. It just doesn't happen. 50 points in a closeout game in the finals. And, everyone's saying now Giannis is the best player on the planet. Well, guess what? Everyone watched that Nets series and Kevin Durant was clearly better than Giannis. Like Kevin Durant was just a little bit better. He was.
I mean, but Giannis is like what makes I think Giannis really did level up in the finals and defensively.
He did. He did level up.
We didn't even talk about defense. Like the reason why he's so great is because he did his 50 piece on the Suns' head, and then he did defensively like he was the best defender of all time.
Right.
That kind of like, to me, he is the best player in the league now. Like, okay, so I agree with you about the overreactions thing. It feels like every game they're like, this is historic, and Mark Jackson's like, ladies and gentlemen, this is greatness, like every single game. And it's like, well, it can't be greatness every game because then it's not great. Like Kawhi, like they were saying Kawhi was the best player ever. And then they were saying LeBron and Anthony Davis were going to run the league. And then now they're saying Giannis is the best player ever or whatever. Or Bill Simmons put him in his pantheon already. Bill Simmons said, oh, he's 21. I think he's ahead of Kevin Garnett already. I mean, his resume is pretty stacked, but still, people overreact, and it's like fun to overreact and say this is historic. Every single game, something's historic. Like Devin Booker's first game was historic. Do we care? Not really. Chris Paul's game 6 against the Clippers, historic. Every single game, something's historic. So
was Devin Booker's 70 points historic?
Oh, absolutely, it was historic.
No.
He's not that guy though.
No.
That was honestly that sent me into a tailspin on Devin Booker. I couldn't like him until about 3 weeks ago. I just didn't like him until then.
I mean,
and he had
he put up 70 points and they still lost the game.
It was the way he did it though. When they were like fouling and passing the ball, and they took the picture with the 70 on the paper. It was like, this is just embarrassing.
Yeah, it was bad.
Yeah, the overreactions thing is bad.
I didn't really know anything about Devin Booker the past. What was he drafted in 2017?
Yeah, it was the year Jamal Murray, I think. Or was it Jamal Murray? No, it was the year after. He actually came off the bench in Kentucky, and he was like same thing as Karl Anthony Towns in Kentucky. Like they didn't get to show off. They didn't get to do their thing on the big stage. Exactly, on the big stage under the bright lights, they couldn't do their thing, and so finally everyone got out of the way at the NBA, and they just started doing their thing. But I thought Devin Booker was like a loser. Like I thought he couldn't win.
See, you know how I didn't know. You know how I knew he wasn't that guy, because he couldn't handle a double team in open gym.
Exactly.
I didn't know anything about Devin Booker. I just knew he was like this guy, this shooting guard who played with a lot of swag, who got drafted to
kind of cute
he's kind of cute. He plays for the Phoenix Suns, but Phoenix sucks, so who cares? The only thing I saw about him was this soundbite of him saying, "Oh, we ain't doubling in open gym." And Joakim Noah's just
Joakim Noah. Yeah,
Joakim,
we're doing it.
We doing the double teams.
My dad taught me to double an open gym.
which is honestly kind of a goated moment by Joakim Noah.
Oh, of course it is. That guy should be in the league somewhere. He should be riding the bench somewhere. But yeah, that's just like the loser moments added up for Devin Booker. I feel like maybe these finals were a losing moment for him. Maybe this is a stain on his legacy, the way he played in these finals. What do you think, Will?
That's, you can't argue with that. It's a big point you're making.
Yeah. What do you think about Chris Paul? How do you think this affects his legacy?
Man, no one was more devastated for Chris Paul than I was. I was so sad to see it because I knew it's like so many things. The stars literally aligned for him. I mean, first of all, like kudos to him for what he did this season because no one expected the Suns to be this good or go this far. And so the Suns hadn't even made the playoffs in like 15 years or something.
I think it was like 2011 or something with.
Oh, my bad. Anyways,
so it's like 12, 10. I don't know.
So
Steve Nash.
So Chris Paul arrives. They make the playoffs. They get the first seed or the second seed. I'm not sure if it was them or Utah.
They were second seed, yeah.
But they do all this stuff. They beat the Lakers. Lakers were probably the championship favorites, if not the Nets. And he did have to face a bunch of wounded teams. No Kawhi, no AD, depleted LeBron, whatever. But I mean, injuries are part of the game, and say what you want. If they had won that championship, no one would have held that against them. They would have said, Chris Paul arrived in a bad Phoenix team, and he breathed new life. He breathed new life into them. They became championship contenders, and they eventually won a final. But that didn't happen, and they couldn't. They lost. They went up 2-0 and then lost 4 games in a row. And I just don't think he's going to have that sort of opportunity again because, what are the chances that 2 out of the 3 teams that you face in leading up to the finals have injured star players?
I think the injuries thing is like that happens every year. Like someone's injured, and like I think if you make it there, you make it there, and you're legit. But I do think, like if you said 8 months ago the Suns Chris Paul leads the Suns to the finals, they lose in 6 games, people would say, "Oh, that's a great outcome for them." That's like Chris Paul, top 10 player of all time. But I feel like the way it happened,
it was his first finals. So
yeah, but I feel like just the way it happened, it's worse for him. Well, it confirmed all the haters. You know what I mean?
I saw a stat about like him being down or up 2-0 in series in the playoffs and then losing, and it was just not a good looking.
Well, it's Doc Rivers is mostly responsible for that. He's done it all like 6 times now. But
it's just like it contributes to the narrative about Chris Paul not being a winner. So it kind of sucks. We're all big Chris Paul guys, but
I don't know. I mean, I feel like around the league, a lot of players dislike Chris Paul, but I feel like he's a pretty well-liked guy among the fans.
I think he had a point on the Clippers where he was whining at the refs every possession. And he seemed to just stop doing that when he would join the Thunder. And like now he's at a point where he's not whining anymore, and he's so much better because I didn't like him when he was on the Clippers. He was whining too much, and I thought this guy's annoying. He's always complaining. Him and JJ Redick.
Yeah, LeBron was always my favorite player growing up, but like he is such a whiner. I'm so annoyed watching him play a lot of the time now because he's just oh man.
Well, no one faces the kind of adversity he does. Like having to shoot at 3 rims, that's tough.
He shot at the middle one, man. My goodness.
Just got to take a guess, I guess. When you're that great, it goes in.
I mean, I guess he had to warm up his acting skills for Space Jam, but still.
Just not good.
Not a good look. Let's talk a little bit about Walnut House. What do you guys got going on? Tell us about the upcoming movie.
So this Monday, what's the date?
So Monday, July 26th.
July 26th.
Which is probably after this is, so our film will be out at this point when, when people are seeing this.
It's called A Howl in the Night. I think I alluded to it in my episode on the podcast. It is a werewolf film that is black and white, kind of like a neo-noir. And yeah, we're releasing it on Monday and we're excited to see how it does.
Yeah.
I mean, we're pretty happy with how it turned out. So we're excited to release it.
Yeah, I think it's our most ambitious project up to this point that we've completed. We're doing something now that's a bit more ambitious, but it's our most ambitious project. It's kind of like our very first film. We kind of did something like this that no one has seen and no one will ever see it probably. But so this one feels like something that we wanted to just get out and do. It's a genre that I personally am fascinated by, the werewolf genre, like sans Twilight. So everything else other than Twilight, like the werewolf stuff, I think is really cool. It's a really good platform for like subverting genre expectations, and so that's kind of what we wanted to do with this one. And yeah, we're just super excited about it. We got to work with a bunch of really great people. Some new actors that we got to work with were they were all excellent and kind of shocking how we were able to land some of them. But yeah, and then our crew was excellent too, and we had a great time. We shot the film in Kelowna.
We went all the way up to Kelowna. Rented an Airbnb in Peachland, filmed in Peachland.
Cool.
For 2 days.
Wine country. Did you do a wine tour when you were up there?
It was kind of like at the tail end of COVID, so like things weren't really happening,
and we had a tight schedule. We did a day. I think it was like we showed up to the cabin at like 3 p.m. and we didn't leave until 5 a.m. kind of thing. So it was definitely the most ambitious thing we've done, but we had a great time with our cast and our crew, and we're really super excited to release it.
I think the number one thing to look out for the film, Liam did the score. He was riffing on his guitar. It sounds pretty awesome.
Dope.
A little Neil Young-esque.
I did a little improvised score on the electric guitar.
I love that.
The entire film. And so, yeah, that was really fun. That was kind of, I've done the score for other films, and this one was just, it felt more like spontaneous, and it was super fun. So, yeah.
So on the topic of improvising on the guitar, just in case you guys didn't know, you guys have probably heard it a couple times if you're listening to this podcast, but the intro, that's me on the guitar.
It's you on the strings?
Messing around a little bit.
Just shredding?
Yeah.
There you go.
For the intro thing, I didn't want to pay anyone to use, and you have to pay per use per project and whatever. So I didn't want to deal with the complications and the added costs. So, just messing around one afternoon, made a short little intro kind of thing.
Yeah. Just do it all in house. That's the way we do it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Authentic.
Yeah. We should do a music episode.
Oh yeah. We're actually working on a little side project with music. We can't get into details with that one, but we're pretty excited about that.
Featuring good friend of the show, Liam Dwyer. Yeah, that's under the wraps right now though. So big things coming soon.
Nice. We stay on the grind.
I'll stay tuned for that one. I'm excited.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. So should we do a little bit of NBA draft stuff?
Yeah. So the draft is on Thursday. So later this week. I come at it as a Raptors fan who was rooting for the tank probably in January, February when things were going really bad. So my understanding of the draft is mostly top 10-ish because I expected the Raptors to be in the round 7, 8, 9, and they eventually won the fourth pick in the lottery, which is huge. That's very big for the Raptors. It's actually it's massive because it's looked at as a 4-player draft with Cade Cunningham, Jalen Green, Jalen Suggs, and Evan Mobley. So that's kind of super exciting for the Raptors because all 4 of those guys fill one of 2 needs for them. They need a big man and they need a shot creator on the wing, which all 4 of those guys do.
Do they need a big man? I mean, they have Siakam and Boucher.
Yeah, Chris Boucher is not a long-term center for them.
That guy.
He's simply not that guy.
Really?
He's actually like, he's probably a bench small forward, power forward kind of guy, just super tall. He's like a shot blocker, but not a good defender. They need a center who can. They need a guy who can give Pascal Siakam a little bit of space, but also can facilitate and like anchor a defense, which Evan Mobley would be perfect for them. Like that's the dream target for them. But
Is
that's what they
Siakam
need.
a long-term guy?
Oh, yeah. People are saying that Pascal's going to get traded. I don't see it happening.
I don't think he'll get traded, but I don't know if he's that guy.
I think he showed signs of it in his first year post championship, and he was really great for a huge portion of that. And then I just think he's an energy guy who needs to feed off a crowd. He needs the rhythm of a home game to go back to. He needs to feel comfortable and have fun with it. And I don't think he had fun this entire year. And I think you could see in the bubble, before the bubble playoffs, he was not having fun. He was struggling, and I see him having a huge comeback season this year. He's coming off a shoulder torn labrum, which is not good. He had to have surgery. He's going to be out for the first 2 weeks of the season. He can start. I think he can start playing. He's already been playing, but he can't do contact stuff until pretty late, which is a little concerning. But I think long term, he's a really great defender. He's become a good playmaker. He's an excellent tertiary offensive option. Like he can make plays off the dribble. He can catch and shoot. He can do all that stuff. And he showed signs of being like a premier number one option. His shot kind of fell off and he got hurt, and he didn't have a center to play with. He's not a five. He's a 3-4, not a five. And so that's why you could see when they got Kem Birch last year, like he really turned it on. He just can't play with Chris Boucher at the five. It's just not going to work. They played their best lineups were with OG Anunoby at the five, and that's because OG is he's bulky and strong. He can kind of have a presence in the paint.
OG's strong, but OG's not a five.
He's not a five. He's a small ball. He can be a small ball five in spurts, but like long term, Pascal needs a center who can set picks for him, who can rebound for him, who can space the floor and kind of like bang and bruise with the big guys. Pascal's like a perimeter defender. Even he's not really a big guy defender. So long term, I think he's totally fine where he is. I think he'll have a really good season this year. They need to find a center. So whether that's in the draft like Evan Mobley, or if it's in free agency, like I don't know, they can try and go after Jared Allen, who's a restricted free agent. They can go after even like John Collins. He's probably not a center for them. They can try and sign Rashawn Holmes, who's an unrestricted free agent who looks to be probably available. Depends what they do with Kyle Lowry. So for the Raptors at number 4, I think it's either Evan Mobley or Jalen Suggs. I don't think Jalen Green will be there, but he'd be great too. He'd fit.
On the topic of Siakam, just because we're going down that road, I've got mixed opinions. I would have bought a Siakam jersey after 2019. I was all aboard the Siakam train, but I feel like some of the reason why he was so good in those playoffs was because people didn't know him. They hadn't seen him around the league. He was like voted most improved player or whatever, but he hadn't been around. He hadn't been a star in the league. He was an all-star that following year, but I feel like the year after those playoffs, people kind of figured him out. And then the other thing that really annoyed me, there was this one game this past year when I think Nick Nurse, because Siakam was having that really cold stretch. He was dry. He couldn't make shots.
It was against Cleveland, I think.
Yeah. So he had been given like the game tying shot and missed like 4 times in a row. And so Nick Nurse in that next game, he took him off for the last 4 minutes. And there was this big exchange that happened between Nurse and Siakam. And I just felt like Siakam was just way out of line on that one. Nick Nurse is one of the best, most respected coaches in the league. Like total team guy, like big energy, you can't hate on Nick Nurse. Like everyone loves that guy, and Siakam was just, it was like an ego thing for me. He was getting mad at Nick Nurse for taking him off when he very clearly wasn't performing very well.
So I just think so people have been saying like, oh, he's become a cancer because he had that moment early in the season where he walked off early and he had a confrontation with Nick Nurse. To me, it's like, what's worse? Would it be better if he was like laughing and smiling, or would it be better if he got pissed off at Nick Nurse? And I think the answer is like, it's better if he got pissed off because they were losing and he was playing bad. And if they're winning, it'll be fine. And like, I understand that it's a respect thing. He shouldn't do that. But I also it's good to see that he's mad about how he's playing and that he's mad about how things are going. And he should want to, like, if he doesn't want to be on the floor at the end of a game, then that's a way bigger problem than if it's an outburst of the coach when things are heated.
Right.
And so I think honestly think it's a non-issue for him. Like most players would, they want to be on the floor in the fourth quarter. And honestly, I did feel like when Nick Nurse benched him, he was playing bad, but I felt like it was a little unfair because he's still giving you a lot of defensively and he's still commanding like at least a bit of gravity offensively to a point where he's more of a positive than, I don't know who he put in over him. It might have been like at that point they hadn't traded Terrence Davis. It might have been Terrence Davis or Stanley Johnson or Yuta Watanabe. It was like he's just better than those guys, and so he should be mad about that. And so, I think like next year, I don't think it'll be a problem. I think it'll be fine. And yeah, it's better that he's mad than that he's happy and okay and content with being benched like that.
Right. Yeah. I mean, at least it's not like a Scottie Pippen thing where the play's not drawn up for him and he just quits on his team.
Yeah. No, he's not going to quit on his team. Like his effort's there. He just the other thing with him is that with Kawhi, he was like an off-ball guy. Like his almost 70% of his shots were unassisted or his baskets were unassisted. He was at the rim and from three. And then the next season, it was like a complete change to his offensive game. Like he became a ball handler. He became a finisher, a creator. He would initiate plays a lot. His unassisted field goals were like way higher. Like he was just like a completely different player.
Well, you'd also have to deal with being game planned for, which he probably didn't have to deal with under Kawhi.
People like, or teams were treating him as the number one option on the Raptors, which he was. And so
there's going to be growing pains.
There was adjustment, and I think the Raptors were like, we're going to force feed him like a 1A role. And there's going to be points where it's rough, but in the long term, it's better for him having 2 years, for example, of being in the 1A role and then coming out of it and seeing what he's worth and what he can do. And I think he will. I think he has, it's in him still. It's not out of the question for him to be that guy, because he has such a diverse offensive skill set, and he has shown to me that he can like hit mid-range jumpers. He can hit threes off the dribble. He can take post fadeaways. He can spin by guys and get to the rim. He's athletic and fast and strong, and he has everything. And honestly, I think mentally he's pretty strong. He just had a nightmare season where shots rolled out, plays went bad, games were lost, and like he just had and they were in Tampa Bay. It was just a terrible season. And so, like, to me, he's shown enough to be like, yeah, he probably has it in him. I don't know if it'll happen. It might not happen, but to write him off and people are saying they need to trade him or that he's just never going to be that guy. I think like it's too early to write him off. I think he could still, if you put a real center next to him and you have a balanced team, he's the best offensive option on the floor in most scenarios, if you ask me. That's my pitch.
I think the Raptors have a really good chance to coming back into playoff contention. They're going to be a good team this next year.
Oh, I would say it's almost guaranteed they're going to make the playoffs. And I think if the draft goes well for them and they can figure out Kyle Lowry, whether he stays or not, and if they can figure out the center, then I think they'll be a top 4, top 3, even top 2 team in the league in the East again.
Yeah,
there's no reason why they can't be. Defensively, they'll be like, if they get Evan Mobley, I really think they'll be number 1, 2 seed in the East, and they'll be like just a powerhouse. Playoffs will be a different story. We'll see how that works. But like Evan Mobley to me has a complete game already, and defensively he's already like well ahead of the curve. So I think that would make them a legit team again this year.
I think Mobley has a good chance to be like a legit player in this league. I like even if they have to get Suggs, like that's still a really good option.
Yeah, Jalen Suggs would be. I think he's going to be really good. He defensively he's excellent, and then offensively he's got like this passing thing that is super exciting, and his like shot creation and the ability to get to the rim that no one on the Raptors has. Not even like they don't have anyone that can get to the rim the way Jalen Suggs can. And his like shiftiness and I think he's got like in 2 years he'll be a pull up three kind of guy, like off pick and roll. He'll be able to pull up for three. He can't do it yet, but I think he'll be able to do that. So
he's got the clutch gene.
Yeah, I mean he's got like the it factor that the Raptors need, especially if Pascal turns out not to be that guy. Jalen Suggs probably can be that guy. Especially, I mean, I also have to look at like most of these guys, if they get drafted by the Raptors, it's the best situation for them because it's a really good development team, a good culture, a positive environment for them to grow. And so, Evan Mobley might turn into a Chris Bosh on the Raptors, but he might turn into, Hashim Thabit on Cleveland, that kind of thing. Like these guys could be busts on different teams, but they could be very successful on other teams.
Yeah, so, that's the thing about the NBA. It's so situational, right?
Yeah, and I think for all four of those guys, the Raptors are the best situation because all four of them would eventually be starting on that team, and it's a winning team ready to build around a star player.
You're I think
Jalen Green should be praying he falls to the Raptors.
Oh yeah, I mean, no one wants to be in Detroit right now. Houston sucks. The Cavs suck. No, I think the Raptors are a really likable team. Like, yeah, I think in the next coming years, I think Toronto's going to be a destination for a lot of free agents.
I hope so. With more international free agents, they're probably less likely to want to be to have a default position where they want to be in the U.S. With stars like Giannis and Luka Doncic and Jamal Murray and these guys, there's a higher chance that Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, those kind of guys might want to come to the Raptors in the future. Like Shai, for example, is like they're not trying to win, and I don't know how long he'll want to stick out being in OKC. But he would be like the kind of guy the Raptors could target maybe in a year or two if he's unhappy.
What's crazy to me about OKC? I mean, they have so many picks, and they have like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Lugan Stewart, what's his face, Al Horford, like
Darius Bazley.
If they traded a couple of those picks, they could be a contending team. I don't know what's going on.
They got super unlucky with the lottery. They probably were thinking we can get our second guy to pair with Shai and Lou Dort. Like we can get Evan Mobley or we can get Cade, and then we're gonna have 3 or 4 guys that we know we can build around, and then we can use the rest of our draft picks as like trade ammo. And they got screwed so hard. They're gonna have to take like Scotty Barnes or Jonathan Kuminga.
You're a big Scotty Barnes guy, though.
I was a big Scotty Barnes guy at like 8 or 9 for the Raptors, not at 5. Like they need a star. They need like a guy who can be like carry an offensive load. And that's not Scotty Barnes for sure. At least not yet. And so they like now their whole treasure chest of draft picks is way less valuable to them because they didn't get their guy they needed to build around. So they got unlucky, and I could see them trying to trade up to 3 with Cleveland. But Cleveland would rather just trade Colin Sexton and take a guard.
It's okay. That you bring up Colin Sexton, that's something I actually don't understand because, it was the whole Darius Garland and Colin Sexton, but I mean, Sexland, Cleveland is Sexland. So fun. But the way Colin Sexton played this year, I mean, he seems like he could be a number 1 option. He had an outstanding season. Why are they getting rid of him?
Why? I like Colin Sexton, but I'm a big Young Bull fan. I watched his YouTube series that he had in high school. Watched his mixtapes. I'm just a big Colin Sexton fan, but like Liam's a big Colin Sexton hater.
No, I was a huge fan of him in high school. I just think like right now he's like literally a chucker.
Is he just, does he have a shitty attitude, or like
No, he just
why do
isn't
they
as good as they
like
think.
Garland over Sexton?
He's just not as good because Darius Garland can fit as like either or a top 3 option or as a role player on any team in the league because of his shooting and his passing and his off ball stuff. But Colin Sexton is literally like a guy who needs 18 shots, who has to be that guy who thinks he's Kobe.
Yeah.
And like he can be, but he's not making other guys better. He's demanding to take his shots. That's like, he's a bit selfish. We're to a point where like guys don't like playing with him because he just wants to take his shots. And he had like some really great games this year, but like I can't see them. He's not a guy that you can win with, I think, frankly. Like their best player can't be Colin Sexton. So, and all the guys in this draft are either Evan Mobley, who I just think they'd mess up Evan Mobley. Jalen Suggs would be perfect for them, but they need to get rid of Colin Sexton if they want to do that.
It's kind of like,
case they have to trade.
It seemed like the whole post LeBron era in Cleveland was kind of like a bunch of those guys that were just like big egos, kind of chuckers. What's that guy's name? Like Seattle guy got traded to Houston because of the whole locker room. Kevin Porter Jr. So like you watch Kevin Porter Jr. It's kind of the same thing as Colin Sexton, because you watch him play and he seems good. Like he seems like he could be a number 1 or 2 option, but there's all these other things going on. And like you see that a lot with these star young players, like Kevin Porter Jr., like from everything I've read, is just like a really bad teammate. He's just not someone you want in the locker room.
Kevin Porter Jr. has like a way higher ceiling than Colin Sexton. But like, I mean, he's had trouble sticking around on teams, obviously. And that sucks. But that's like for Houston, Kevin Porter Jr. is like literally Jalen Green. And everyone's saying they're going to take Jalen Green at 2. So that's a bit of a tricky spot for them. It's like a duplication of like everything for them. And I mean, it's not like you shouldn't take a guy just because you have another guy, but that's a tough spot. Like, it's not a good spot for Houston or Cleveland, honestly, at 2 or 3. So I could see either of them trading out of their pick, because that like Houston needs a wing or a point guard, or like a big wing or a not pass first, but like a classic point guard like Jalen Suggs. But should they reach for Jalen Suggs at 2? Because it seems like he's pretty clearly a 3rd or 4th guy. And then Cleveland need wings. They have 2 point guards who are like under 6'2", and they have Jared Allen, and they have Isaac Okoro, but they need they need talent, but they could use a real point guard like Jalen Suggs too. So Jalen Suggs fits both those teams, but I could see them both not picking him because he's not the fun pick. But if I were them, I would want to trade out of my pick. I would want to trade back for multiple picks and go at it again next year, because they're going to suck. It is a double draft next year. I think it's the high school kids are going to be in the draft, which is going to be huge. It's like a number 15 pick is more like a number 7 pick in next year.
Wait, did they change the rules?
They did change the rules. So the high school kids can enter the draft as of next year, I think. So that's why all these teams are trading for picks next year, because they want to be in the double draft. So you can look at the top 15 picks as you can look at the first round as potentially a whole lottery, classically in previous drafts. I don't know exactly, like there's like Chet, what's the guy's name? Chet something, like this 7'1", like Giannis Tingus Pingus Jason Kidd player. Like he's like the ultimate unicorn. Chet Gorzin, that's his name. No,
Chet Gorzin.
No, it's not Chet Gorzin.
Chet the Jet?
It's not Chet the Jet. It's Chet Holmgren. That's what his name is.
Okay.
Chet Holmgren. Yeah, he's literally like a Tingus Pingus mixed with Jason Kidd.
Chet Gorzin is the all-time name.
There's also what's the guy's name? Whatever. There's a couple of guys who are like really highly touted next year. And so if I'm Houston or Cleveland, I'm like trading back, taking 2 picks, getting like James Bouknight or something, or Moses Moody, and I'm taking a shot at it next year, trying to get Chet the Jet.
I love how pissed off New Yorkers were when the Knicks drafted Kristaps Porzingis. That video.
Well, it's kind of crazy. Like
Who
people
the
were saying,
fuck
like,
is Tingus Pingus?
I mean, I'm like, remember when they traded Dennis Smith Jr. for Tingus Pingus, and it's like, wow, they just got robbed. The Knicks just traded away like a top 5 player for. I remember we had a fantasy league, and Will offered me Giannis for Tingus Pingus, and I said no. That was like two games before he tore his ACL in New York. And
Why
he
would
was
you
like,
ever offer up like Giannis? I feel like
Because
is the
Tingus Pingus was
ultimate-
that guy right there.
because
No,
Tingus Pingus
no,
was
no.
like, no, at that
that time,
point,
he
he
was
was
that
like,
guy.
he was the number 1 player for like the last like month at the time, and he was like 27, 9, and 3 with like 2 blocks and 3 threes and a couple steals and really good percentages, like no turnovers. He was literally that guy.
And
I-
Giannis
okay.
was clearly no Batman at
Yeah.
that point.
And then he fell on the stairs and tore his ACL and gained 25 pounds of muscle and became a brick. And now it's like he's not the same player. And but like
and now nobody wants him.
and now, well, I mean, honestly, I all this hate, but the Raptors could trade for him, and he might fit pretty well with them. He would fit very well next to Pascal Siakam if he actually decided he wanted to play.
I feel like Giannis is the most consistently like really good fantasy player, like with the
Yeah.
least issues over the past like 4 or 5 years.
Well,
Oh, yeah.
his biggest
Okay,
problem
not
is-
5 years, probably like
His,
3 years.
his biggest problem is free throw percentage is always not great.
He doesn't
Turnovers,
get you threes.
turnovers are high, and he doesn't get you threes. So like,
but at that
But
time,
he-
that just shows you how good Kristaps was at that time. That I offered Giannis, and he declined the trade. Like, he was that guy for a little bit. So
he just got so much bigger, and he lost all of his athleticism. Like he was doing Kevin Durant stuff off the dribble. He was doing like dribble move pull-ups in the post, like stuff that like he shouldn't be able to do. But now he just like takes his like stiff mid-range jumpers and his like deep threes.
He's so
and then he'll hit
stiff.
one
He's a
and then-
freaking pylon.
Yeah, he'll hit a deep 3 and it'd be like, whoa, he's got range. But he just like he'll hit 1 out of 10 of those. It doesn't change anything. He's still not getting rebounds. He's still like watching Luka Doncic just go like dribble 15 times. So
I feel like that's also kind of the problem because
that's a serious problem.
Luka has sort of turned into kind of like a James Harden type player. Like he carries the ball up and he needs to touch it on every single play.
I'm really concerned about this, but the way he's going, it's not good. He could have been it could have been different for him, but now he's turned into this guy where and he's got a new coach. Is it Jason Kidd? I think Jason Kidd
Jason Kidd
Dallas-
is the new head coach.
This is bad for Dallas. This is really bad. He's the betting favorite for MVP next year. That's a bad bet. I wouldn't take that bet.
take the field over him.
Take the field over him. Yeah.
I thought he was going to be MVP this past year, and I had the number 1 overall pick in one of my fantasy league drafts, and I drafted him, and boy, was that ever a bad pick. It was not good.
Well, he's a great player, but I just don't like the way they're going with his development and the way he said in interviews actually this summer, like, oh, I can't complain to refs, but you have to actually do it on the court because he's still whining so much every possession.
He's such a whiner.
And
Oh my.
it's not good. And he's dribbling the ball way too much. He's taking bad shots. I mean, these are the bad things. He's obviously like a top 5 player.
I
in the
think
league right now he's still amazing, but
I think if you have anyone in the league to build your franchise around, it's him without question.
yeah, no, I mean, I think if you just put him in a system or on a team where he wouldn't have to dribble the ball that much, and he could just fit into a team, he could be like he could be the best offensive player on a championship team and run an offense. But he shouldn't. No player should have a usage rate as high as his. It's just too high.
I also feel like that's kind of because I mean he doesn't really have any decent pieces around him in Dallas.
I guess, but like they traded for guys like Josh Richardson who are supposed to be like tertiary ball handlers who ended up not touching the ball at all. And you have Tingus Pingus who's getting iced every possession because he can't touch the ball. And you have like, yeah, I mean and everyone said, oh, their draft last year was amazing. It wasn't that they got Tyrell Terry. He didn't even play. So yeah, I honestly, Dallas this is a super hot take, but Dallas is like keep your eyes on them. They might blow up and like have to trade him in 2 years.
Jeez.
Yeah. Because he's going to be unhappy losing, and I don't see them winning unless they get like a massive haul for Tingus Pingus and his value is too low.
Did you see that video after the Clippers beat them? Paul George trying to do a jersey exchange and Luka denies him.
Yeah.
I don't want that
that's
jersey.
Cool. That's cool. I'll take that any day of the week. The jersey swap thing is stupid. Yeah. But back to the draft. There's, like I said, there's 4 guys, but then I guess there's the Scotty Barnes is like, he's rumored to creep into the top 4, but that's just like I think that's fake. And I think the biggest faller, I actually put a bet on the biggest riser, who I think is going to be James Bouknight, who he's like a guard from UConn, and he's got like this, I wouldn't say Jamal Crawford, but he's got like this like really explosive offensive game. And he's also like super like athletic leaper. He's got like the in his ability, he's got a huge bag. His bag is just massive. And his offensive bag of tricks is just lethal. But like he's the guy that could like go as high as 5th, and I think he's like mocked at like 8 or 9 right now. So I bet him to go past or to go before pick 8. Because I think he's going to rise, and for some reason I think he's going to be good. He's more likely to be a 6th man or a bench scorer than like maybe like a Jordan Clarkson kind of thing. But he's like the biggest riser right now. And then the biggest faller is probably Jonathan Kuminga, who was mocked to be top 4, and now he's just falling because he kind of plays like he had a lobotomy.
Jeez.
Yeah. He kind of just bricks. Like he's like Paul George if you just took away his like decision making. And Paul George's decision making is not that great anyways.
It's not great.
So yeah, Jonathan Kuminga is like, he's like, his highlights are really great, but if you watch his games, it's just like he just doesn't know what he's doing. Yeah, but the top 4 is pretty solid, and I would like for a Raptors fan, I'll take any of them, and I'd be super happy. But I'm rooting for Evan Mobley.
All right. Okay, so that's the draft right there. Speaking of Paul George, Clippers, do we want to get into any of the impending free agents this offseason?
Sure. I don't have. So do you have a list or anything?
So we got Kawhi, obviously Kyle Lowry, Damian Lillard. I'm sure I'm missing a couple big ones.
I don't think Damian is a free agent. I think he's signed for like a super max that's like.
Oh, okay, right. He's signed for a couple more years, but
he's basically
requested a trade. He requested a trade.
I could see a sign and trade with Philadelphia for Kyle Lowry.
There's rumors. There's rumors of a DeMar Kyle reuniting.
Yeah, I saw that. I just don't know how. I don't know how the Lakers could swing that when they've offered KCP and Kyle Kuzma to everyone. So I don't see how. Like I just don't. If I'm the Raptors don't want Montrezl Harrell. Like you can't say, but you can't just say take Montrezl Harrell because they're not going to take him.
I like Harrell. I don't know why Harrell gets a bad rap. He was 6th man of the year
because
2
he's
years
banging
ago.
his head all the time, and he's like grabbing rebounds, and he's not as good as everyone thinks he is.
He's ferocious, man. He's such a monster.
He just like, but ferocious should be like get in a stance and guard someone. He'll still let like JaVale McGee blow by him. That's a problem. It's like you need to be a good defender, and he's not a center because he gets bodied by like Karl Anthony Towns. And he's not a power forward because he can't stay in front of like guys like Pascal Siakam. So he's like an okay rebounder, but
he's an energy guy. He gets like big dunks. He has big dunks.
I guess he gets big dunks. Does that like what's that worth though? Is that really worth Kyle Lowry? No. They're just not. And then like the Spurs, why would the Spurs take anyone on the Lakers? The Spurs would say, well, like because the problem for the Lakers is that they don't have cap space. The classic, like every star is available, they're going to go to the Lakers, but they have no cap space. So they have to it has to be KCP and Kyle Kuzma. And the Spurs don't want KCP or Kyle Kuzma. That's the way it is.
Nobody really wants those guys.
Yeah.
I feel like Kyle Kuzma needs to go somewhere new and just kind of
Shanghai.
Kind of just no, he needs to go somewhere new and just kind of like have a second like life to his career, you know.
He needs to join Josh Hart and Alonzo Ball.
Yeah, and the little super team up action.
Yeah, little big 3 action.
Yeah, they can go join the big 3, and they might like.
But they could even like trade Zion.
They might like get a top 3 seed in the big 3. But
The big, yeah, join the big three. Yeah.
With Ice
That's
Cube.
that's another thing. What the hell is going on in New Orleans? They have probably
They
the
want
most
Kyle Lowry.
explosive player. Like they have Brandon Ingram, Zion Williamson, Lonzo Ball.
So Lonzo Ball is a restricted free agent, and I think if the Raptors were able to get Evan Mobley, the Pelicans want Kyle Lowry. I would do a sign and trade Kyle Lowry to New Orleans if they were willing to give him the bag and take Lonzo Ball. That would be a great trade for both teams. The Pelicans need Kyle Lowry. They need him so badly.
Okay, but that can't be just like a 1-for-1 trade. You got to give more than just Lonzo Ball.
Well, it would be like because it's a sign and trade, his value isn't as high. They'd probably take Lonzo Ball in a first or something like that, and that's enough for the Raptors to say, okay, we'll take that
instead
of letting him walk. And I mean, Lonzo Ball would fit perfectly on the Raptors. He would be, because Fred VanVleet shouldn't be a point guard; he should be a shooting guard. And Lonzo Ball can defend shooting guards, and Fred can defend point guards, and they can switch roles offensively. It would be really, and pairing with Evan Mobley, it would make Pascal Siakam's life easy, and OG's life easy. It would be perfect. I really think it'd be incredible, like an amazing pairing. And the Pelicans need Kyle Lowry so badly. Kyle Lowry would do for them what Chris Paul did for Phoenix, which, I mean, has been said a lot, but they just need something like Kyle Lowry is the kind of guy that could make them actually start winning games. But I mean, they fired Stan Van Gundy. He was like the worst coach in the league last year. And they should be better this year. They'll be better. Steven Adams doesn't fit on that team either. Like, they can't have Steven Adams at center next to Zion. They need a guy who can shoot. So someone like Miles Turner, if they can get him, that'd be good.
Brook Lopez,
he's a free agent actually. So they can get him. They have
Tingus
cap space.
Maybe
Tingus would be a good fit. He'd be a good fit. Imagine him milking threes with Zion hitting the glass.
That would be dirty.
That would be dirty, yeah. But they need to figure out the point guard thing, because I guess they don't see Lonzo as a long-term thing.
Point Zion, man.
That's fair. I think Zion's probably his best at center, just like banging, like just blowing by guys and dunking on them.
Yeah.
Like there's not a center in the league that can defend him, and put him in pick and roll. He's unstoppable, truly unstoppable. Like, his field goal percentage is insane. It's like 70%, and he's getting to the rim every play he wants. So they need a point guard that can get him the ball, which is literally Lonzo Ball. I don't really know why. I guess Lonzo's decision making is pretty poor sometimes, where he like makes decisions that lose them games.
He has like a 2K glitch when he's trying to shoot a three. He doesn't know whether to pass it or pull up.
Yeah, I just remember that game against New York when they were like on the verge of making the playoffs, and he didn't. He like helped off of an open corner shooter. I think it might have been like what's his name, Alec Burks or something. Like, he helped off of a corner shooter, and like Stan Van Gundy was like doing the Montrezl Harrell thing where he was like banging his head, and like that's Lonzo Ball in a nutshell. So, and he came down and like shot a pull up three and just airballed like a possession before that. So I guess that's what you're getting when you get Lonzo Ball. But I do think on the Raptors, they would kind of rein him in and turn him into a better player. Whereas in New Orleans, the structure is not there, and they need the guy who's not going to handle the ball as much to let Zion do the work. And also the Brandon Ingram pairing with Zion is probably not long term.
Yeah, what the hell is going on with Brandon Ingram? Like, I thought he was good on the Lakers a little bit, and then he got most improved player on New Orleans. I haven't really seen anything from him.
He had like a really good Christmas Day game, I think.
That's his legacy.
He had like a legacy game on Christmas Day. Put him in the Pantheon. He's probably a top 20 player after that. But no, honestly, it's hard to tell if he's a good stats, bad team guy, or if he's like, he can actually be a good player. It could be a Devin Booker thing where if you just gave him like Kyle Lowry, he could be really good. But as of now, he doesn't really help them win, even though he gets 25 on like good shooting numbers.
Right. Well, I think that pretty much covers it, unless there's anything else you guys want to talk about.
No, just go check out our movie on Walnut House Pictures YouTube channel.
A Howl in the Night.
We've got like a couple coming out over the next couple months. So
yeah, we're filming another one in 2 weeks, 3 weeks. So
Sweet.
lots coming through the pipeline. The Walnut House Pictures. But
We'll be looking out for it.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us again.
It was fun.
Yeah, thanks for coming back on the podcast. I don't know why in the world you would come back for a second time on this podcast, but
Just love
you did
the cold takes.
Yes, for the cold takes and the even colder. Oh, it's colder takes, cold brews.
Colder takes. They're right.
The coldest takes.
The coldest takes.
Takes.
I mean, our past podcasts, we had some pretty good takes.
We had some hot ones.
Yeah.
We had some cold ones too, though.
We did.
That Randall take wasn't great. Didn't shape out well.
Didn't age well.
Yeah.
All right, well,
suck next year.
Thanks so much, guys.
Okay. Well, thanks for having us.
Appreciate it.
See you next time.
Later.
Thanks for listening to this podcast. As always, make sure to smash that like button. And for more in-depth sports analysis and Brews reviews, make sure to subscribe to my channel. And make sure to check us out on Spotify, Apple Music, or wherever you get your podcasts. We got a lot more exciting content on the way, so as always, make sure to stay tuned, stay thirsty, and keep bruising.